I think we have so many cultural norms that sometimes dictate how we use time. So we're like, oh, you need 9 hours of sleep every night. And then you have kids and you're like, I definitely don't need 9 hours of sleep. Like I can run on 3. Like it is what it is. You know, you got to make sure you have 30 minutes of break between every 2 hours of work. What? Who told you that?
Welcome to CA Podcast. I'm Lance.
And I'm Chad.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I watched our last one. I felt like a little kid. I'm sitting there and I'm like, what am I doing? These darn chairs.
I mean, I just, no one sinks in that chair more than you. I think it's a comfortability thing. Like, let me ask you this.
I want to sit back like here, but then I would look awful on camera.
And then you wouldn't be able to hear you.
Yeah. I could bring the mic with me.
Did you like, when you were like a kid, like, did you like chairs like this? And did you just sink in them? Or like... Is it like a comfort level thing?
It's one too many car accidents.
Oh.
And so if you ever see me in a chair of any sort, I'm leaning.
Yeah.
I'll take a folding chair and I'll stand on my tippy toes just to like get the angle because it takes some pressure off my lower back.
Like for me, like I can sit up and it's fine.
This feels like awful. Like my back is stiff. Like this is just so like I'll see it in a few hours.
See, but that's then you're gonna fall asleep on the podcast.
No, I won't.
You'll be like Vinny. Just kidding.
But like, so the worst part is like flying.
Oh yeah.
Because you can't. There's not a lot of leg room. So if you are gonna slouch, now your knees are in the back.
That and when you sit next to walruses on the plane and they're literally sitting on your seat and you're already kind of a big guy and they're sitting on your seat.
Oh, so let's go here. There's the unspoken word as you just put your arm. That middle armrest. So depending on where you're sitting, window.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who owns that.
Nobody.
Because it's like, you just want to get in your seat early so you can set dominance. Like, please, this is mine. I can maybe share this little 45 square.
There was a flight I was on, I think about a week ago, and this lady, it wasn't up.
Right.
So I was sitting in the aisle, and it wasn't up. So I put it, basically down, or it was up. So I put it down, and this lady comes in, and she's not a bigger lady. She's an older lady. Mm-hmm. She comes in and she puts it up. So now it's just me and her.
Right.
There's nothing between us. And then she puts her leg on my seat. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like her foot is like literally in line with the other seat in front of me. And I'm like, am I crazy? Like I was like, I think I'm like hallucinating. Like, is this a real thing? So like, I'm a big boy. So I just stretch and just push her right out of it. And I'm just like, this is where I am. Because I don't protrude over the seat.
So rather than say anything, you just got a little bit like, territorial, like,
no,
this is my space. Yeah, We're going to have this ride for 2 hours.
What I waited for is when she started to buckle up. Because then she went like this. And I was like, yep, that's mine. Because I had already buckled up. But there was one flight I was flying on, and this is just a rabbit hole. But I sit down, I'm there, they're about to close the plane, and this guy, and I'm not kidding you, he's probably 400 pounds, comes on the seat. And of course, where is he sitting? Right next to me. And it's the Contour planes, the little plane.
Oh.
And he sits right next to me, and I'm telling you, the whole flight.
Now, were you booked? Like, because really that airline.
It was fully booked.
Oh, wow.
So I am like this. And he had to get 2 seat things to extend it, and I'm literally like this. And I've never been more uncomfortable for basically 2 flights because you touch down in Beckley and you go out, and I'm literally just like, and I've never been more uncomfortable. Like, so that now when I book with Contour, I'm literally sitting there waiting for the second I can check in so I can grab one of the outside seats. Mm-hmm. I'm like, never again.
So I didn't know how important it was to do that, like check in, because you really do want to own your seat.
Oh yeah,
but it's like, I have so many dead end rabbit holes that my mind is like going down because I was on a flight back from Vegas. I took the worst flight ever to go to Minnesota. So you have to go 4 hours north to then go 3 hours south back into Florida, which I was like, to save the $30 wasn't worth it.
No,
this
never
is way before my I didn't even know Alexa, so this is like pre.
Right.
So as I'm getting on the flight, my girlfriend decides to break up with me. So then you have 4 hours to like replay every bad emotional like thought.
What a great thing to be.
So Las Vegas is known for a lot of bad things, right?
Yeah.
Like partying.
Yeah.
Homeboy, about the size of what you were saying, must have not showered the whole weekend, and our area just smelled. And so it's this girl, myself, and we're literally like this, just trying to avoid. And I'm like, this is the torture bus. Like, you can't get off of if you're on a bus, I'll get the next one.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever. When you're on a plane, you're
choice.
there.
Yeah,
but
you're stuck,
we're
man.
totally gone sideways, like
opposite
life
direction.
of traveling.
Yeah, it's something else.
If you've traveled, this is the funniest thing: airports.
Something else.
Watching people, how they spend their time.
Yeah,
is so interesting to me because.
Yep.
Do you wait in the line? Do you take time to sit down? You have sit down restaurants.
Yeah.
You got the.
I
don't know how long that sandwich has been stuck in the cellophane sandwich.
I don't know.
Or you just have people like everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you're awkwardly trying to figure out like, do I want to sit between them? Is there space?
Yeah.
People that look like they just moved in.
Well, now in post-COVID, it's so weird too because it's like, do I skip one still? Or because it used to be you could just sit next to everybody, arm to arm at the airport. Now you look and it's like you see, two people and a seat open, and then a person and a seat open, and two people, and you're like, am I allowed to sit in the seat in between? Or like what, and then you have the people that put their bags, so it's a family of 4, so they put their bags on 8 chairs, and you're just like, I'm not allowed to sit on that. I know that. But the funniest thing that I see is, so when I get to a airport, I'll grab something. Like, so say it's, I got like a 2.5 hour layover. I'll grab, this is the funniest thing to me. So I'll grab something to eat. I'll go sit at the gate. I'll, put my laptop up or whatever I'm doing at the time. And I will watch people that are on my same flight come, look at the gate, and then leave. I'm like, oh, you said to make sure it was there? Like, because you can tell they're rushing, like they just got their connecting flight, and they get there and they're like, it's like 2.5 hours, and they look at the gate.
Wait, so I'm that guy. So I gotta locate it.
Yeah.
Then I'll go get the food because I don't want to I still got another like 20 more feet because you don't know how long.
Sure.
These gates are.
No, that's true. I guess I can see, like, you've never been to an airport before.
Because like Denver's the worst.
Yeah.
Denver's this tube that never ends.
Right.
And I've seen gates go all the way up into the 60s.
Yes.
So, and they don't break them up.
No.
If you're at 3, you got to go 40 gates.
All the way down.
All the way down, 50 gates. And then you get eaten up by bars and restaurants. So
right.
you can walk a good mile. So I try to make sure, like, let me locate it.
Right.
Is it a pack flight? Like, I got to, like, scope it out a little bit. And I'm like, okay. And then sometimes I won't even, I've done this, which is awful. I won't sit at the gate because there's no room.
Oh, yeah.
Then you don't hear them because you get stuck in whatever you're working on. You look up and you're like, oh, it's time to go.
Oh, yeah. That happened to me. So my flight got delayed or canceled out of here. I had to go to Columbus. And to be honest, I haven't flown out of Columbus in, almost 2 years. Mm-hmm. So like I didn't really get the flow of everything right. So the gate's the end, and I'm probably called a 2-minute walk to the gate. Right. Well, there's a nice little area where thankfully someone took the second seat away. So I was able to have a full work seat. So because it was just one seat. So I had, I had everything plugged in, had my bags up and everything like that. And I'm sitting there working like pretty intense. Like, cause my layover was like 5 hours because of the flight and everything. So I'm sitting there, I'm chugging away. And my flight was leaving at like 5 something, and it's 5:07, and I was like, wait a second, I need to be boarding right now, right? And all of a sudden I hear last call, and I was like, whoa, wait a second. And so like literally I packed all my stuff up. Like, I hope I didn't forget anything. I just run to the gate, and I had like priority boarding and all this stuff. And I'm just like, oh, like, I just got so caught away in like what I'm doing. But then the funniest thing was this last flight yesterday I was on. I'm sitting there in the American flight, and the guy. So when I get on, I piece it together. The guy that was sitting to my right as I'm boarding, he's got like all these travel stickers on his bag. It's like all different kinds of countries, states, like, right. And he's sitting there and he's just like intently on his thing, right. And it's like group 7's boarding, right. I'm like, okay. So I get there and there's one business class seat that's empty. And so then at the end, they're like, we're about to close the doors. And this guy comes on and he sits in the business seat. And I'm like, this dude had priority boarding. This dude was in like first class. Right. And he didn't board till the last thing. I'm like, man, if I had that, I'm on the plane immediately. I'm like, get me on there, because he's sitting there just, I guess, assuming business.
So this is kind of like the lead up to this whole thing is time.
Yeah.
If I know where I'm at and I've got like my pre-bought seat, I don't want to get in this and sit and deal with all the chaos I will sometimes delay myself going there because then I can wrap up a conversation on the phone. I'm not just sitting watching 100 people. Sure. But I find that we all handle our time
so
totally differently.
Yeah.
There's not a living person from our little babies
right
to our grandmas.
Yeah.
It's all the same amount of time. It's
All
how we spend it.
Yeah.
To me is the most unique thing.
Yeah.
And I think
because I have a completely different mindset.
Right.
Because I'm like, I don't want to get on there because I was on a flight that there were so many people that was in zone 621 that brought on bags.
Right.
That the overhead bins
were
full.
See, that's different because now everyone's doing the onboarding thing and they're using that. So you almost got to get
you got to get on there. Yeah. You're done.
You're done. But in certain segments, they leave buckets for you.
Or so like the contour flight, like you're good. Like, you
right.
know. But it's definitely interesting because like that guy clearly just didn't care, didn't have a stow above, so he just had his backpack and his computer. So it's like, you know, hey, I can just stash it under the seat. So it's crazy to see like me. I'm like, I got to get in there because I don't want to have to check my baggage. This guy's just like, no, I'm gonna work. I'm gonna use all of my time up until the last call to board.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, that guy uses time right. Like,
it just amazes me watching young people literally panic because their phone is like below 50%. They're not going to have the needed amount of time on the, plane. Right. You got to watch the movies and then now with Wi-Fi on, I think you're actually close to streaming.
They allow you to fully stream on there. Yeah.
So now it's like you have pretty much everything you want on the plane.
Oh yeah.
And I find that people, so you're getting now close to 30. You're staring at 30.
I know.
You're seeing young people in your industry.
Yeah.
And you're just literally like, bro, you still got a little bit of life experience. Like, that's good that you started.
Yeah.
But now I'm looking at like, I'm going to be 7 years to 50.
That's crazy.
I can't just act like I've got forever to live.
Sure.
And so I got to start thinking about health.
Yeah.
Like, I can't just be like, I'll be young forever. I don't need to, I'll drink 1 bottle of water a day and I'll be fine. Sleep.
Yep.
Like I wish I could run off of 3 hours of sleep.
I know.
But I don't grasp why, especially as Christians.
Right.
You've got the Jesus coming back.
Sure.
Which they don't really live their life like it, but they say that so they don't have to do anything.
Right.
Then you have the preppers.
Yep.
But it's like we value time so interesting because it is free.
Right.
Some people just like I got a family member, he could care less.
Oh yeah.
He wants everything catered to him.
Yep.
I don't know what he does with his life, but watch movies all day long. Doesn't want to be plugged into his family's life.
No.
You have other people that are working 80 hours a week. And I'm like, do you just want to do you want me to send you a picture once a month? Like, this is how the family is.
Yeah.
And so we spend it so uniquely.
Right.
But it's how we get to choose because God gave us this free will.
Yep.
And I find it so interesting how we value this time.
Yeah, and I think, and it differs from person to person, like you said, but it's also like, at the end of the day, we all have the same time.
Right.
Like, so like what we do with it is so funny because it's like you have some people that go, oh, I just don't have enough time for this. I don't have enough time. And they make all these excuses why they don't have time. And then you have somebody that's in the same position as them, same industry as them, that's doing so much more than them. And then they have more free time than that person. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, wow, like they're really good at time management and they're not. And then you start looking at the age bracket and it's like, oh, this person's older. They're a little bit more experienced. They walk through the same thing that this person worked through. Because, I think we have so many cultural norms that sometimes dictate how we use time.
Yes.
So we're like, oh, you need 9 hours of sleep every night. And then you have kids and you're like, I definitely don't need 9 hours sleep. Like I can run on 3. Like it is what it is. Like, so I think these cultural norms dictate how we use our time. Like, people are like, oh, you got to make sure you have 30 minutes of break between every 2 hours of work. And you're like, what? Like, who told you that?
Right.
Like, and then you start breaking these things down. And it's like, we have these false narratives that prevent us from being productive.
Right.
Because, I mean, I remember there was people that tried to tell me the way to be effective is every 45 minutes, you need to take a break. You need to walk around and you sit back down. And I'm thinking, if I break my flow at 45 minutes, I'm never finishing this today.
Right.
Like you might because I remember there were people like, oh, no, and I get it. I think Vinny does the block time, but I know people that do it like religiously to the point where they're not blocking just time; they're blocking like breaks and stuff. And I get that. I get it. Some works for some people. For me, when I get in a creative headspace, I get like hard work. Like you need to take a break, come back to it. Like hitting a nail. I can take a break, come back and hit a nail.
Right.
But creating things and creatively trying to solve these problems with video, with picture, with graphics, if I step away from a project and I take 45 minutes away, I'm like, what was I even doing? Why was I thinking this way?
You're looking at projects. I'm looking at people, how they look at like, all right, I got to get in for the 8 hours.
Yes.
Click, like get done. And then their minds go to potato.
Yeah.
Or they're like looking through all of winter, waiting for summer to happen so they can get like the beach on, or they can go to boating and golfing. And it's like, I get that you need activities.
Yeah, sure.
But I find that as Christians,
right,
that's probably the most things we waste. I'm trying to find the wording, but it's like we waste time so conveniently. And it's like, oh, Jesus will make the wind of God will propel me. And it's like,
he's going to redeem my time.
Yeah, he will.
He already did.
Yes. But are we using it wisely where he should and would?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, as somebody who wants to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Watching how people use their time, it's like
you will break out in hives sometimes watching how people use their time. Like I've seen you just be like, what is this?
Right.
Like, what are we doing here? Like there's been times where like you'll walk in, you'll be like, okay, what's happening?
Right.
Because like you see, I mean, to be honest though, I think kind of see time as currency.
Yes.
Which is how I see it too. So it's like, but it's one of those things it's like, I get it. I think we use sometimes, like, this is the way I see it too, is like money, right? Money can help us, pay rent, right? Live, but the money can also help us have a good time. Well, go to a theme park.
Currency, the problem we use currency is our mind goes right to money.
Yeah. For sure.
You got to look at like, so you've been on the road.
Yeah.
You got to like reconnect with the boys.
Yeah.
You got to also spend time with the wife.
Right.
You have to have you time.
Yeah.
And it's funny how in this new day and age, we're spending us time.
Yeah.
Pretty much on our phones, and we get trapped in this 100%. Like
we're in other people's lives.
Yeah, we're in this social media, and it's like I can't stand it, and yet I do it to myself. Where I'm like, where did 45 minutes go? And I'm like, what did I just do? I should have not. But I do realize like we're relaxing differently.
Yeah.
But no one comes out of binge watching and is like, I'm ready to take on the world.
No,
you usually go from another binge watching moment.
No,
and I just wish that we would value what we could do with it.
Right.
And then realize, okay, I did my best. I'm okay with it. But a lot of people are just flippantly getting through life. And then like, did my kid just graduate last year? Or am I like now ready to sign my AARP?
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at all my friends, like one of my buddies, I'm like, dude, you're about to be 45 years old. Like we were 17. Like we were like, sleepovers and binge watching movies until 6 in the morning. Like,
where'd it go?
Like, we're adults. Like, we're that generation that like we're supposed to be responsible and have it all figured out. Right. And you feel less responsible.
Yeah, it's crazy because even like in a minute thing, right? So I was doing a job for 5 weeks, right? Traveling back and forth, and obviously like I have friends down there, right? So like we would hang out and everything. And like as it started to get to the end, it felt like it was taking forever. But as like the last two trips, I realized like, oh wow, like we've kind of like been together for 5 weeks. Like it's been like a life. Like it's been one of those things. It's like it's about to be gone. Like this isn't gonna happen anymore. And then I started realizing, dang, like I'm gonna miss hanging out with you. Like this is like because it started to feel so normal. So at first it felt weird, right? And then by the second, third week, it was like, oh, like this is normal. And the fourth week, even I didn't even have the realization, like, oh, this is it.
Right.
And then this week came, and I'm sitting there like, bro, like this is our last meal together. Like this is the last time we're gonna hang out. Like, and obviously, like, no, I'll go back down and stuff like that. But like that was like it was pretty much like, hey, like we were family for 5 weeks. It's like that even that, like I could have when we were hanging out, so we hung out a lot, like we were working a lot, but we were also hanging out a lot. I could have been like, I'm gonna go back and go get some sleep, right?
Right.
I'm gonna go binge watch a TV show, right? But I spent pretty much every moment of free time hanging out with people,
right?
Because I'm like, I'd rather invest in the people and have them invest in me than me go watch a TV show.
Of course, you should always be investing in somebody because there's something to relationships have to be earned.
Yeah,
you can't just high five somebody and then they're your bestie. Like they got to know you
100%.
You spend life together,
and
but now I'm looking back going, what did I do 4 years ago? Like when I was in transition, I'm like almost kicking myself being like, I should have spent way more time writing. I could have been way more ahead today. And so now I'm like looking back at the 5 year, you put 5 years, you were like just, getting out of college and kind of making a couple big,
I mean,
you give yourself 10 more years. You're going to look back and go like, what was I doing this? And
Yeah.
like, are we really counting? So in what is this? It's Psalms 90:12.
Yeah.
So teach us to number our days that we get the heart of wisdom.
Right.
When you're young,
Sure.
you have 1,000 days,
100%.
1,000 years. Like,
Yep.
what? No big deal. I'll figure it out later.
Yep.
And then you get in your 30s and you're still feeling young.
Right.
40 comes. Now when you're midway through 50, you're getting to 50,
Yep.
you're like, I got to take it serious.
Right.
And
It's
I'm like,
yeah.
now I guess I'm at that space where like, I need to take things serious.
Yeah.
I want to see some things accomplished.
Yep.
And so the Lord's been like really after me to quit. Just not wait. I don't think I waste time, but I need to be valuing things, time management,
Right.
where I'm like, do I want to invest in that?
Yeah.
Now I have to count the cost
Yeah.
because
Perspective now.
but
Yeah.
you don't think about it.
No.
And that's not something you really think about. It's one of those like times where you're sitting on the rocker.
Yeah.
There's nothing to do, which is rare for anybody.
Yep.
Like, how many times does anybody intro respect, like take account of the last decade?
Yeah. Not many. I mean,
Well, that's what I mean. It's like we're in this busyness. You know, you and I love to watch, clips of,
yeah.
and then you're watching 2 speeds, so you're double your
Yeah.
timing.
Exactly.
So like, when is our brains ever just
it doesn't shut off. Like,
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's the other important thing is like assessing yourself.
Mhm.
Because I think it's funny, right? Because in normal jobs, they have assessment periods, right? And it's like it's funny because it's actually a good thing. I enjoyed when I had assessment periods when I worked at a normal job, because what I would do is I would find the things that I was maybe on the wrong path on that I thought I was on the right path on, could correct it. I saw it as like a learning opportunity, right?
Mhm.
We don't do that with ourselves though,
No.
at all.
Right.
And it's like we really should. We should, because it's so funny because I know, and I forgot exactly where it is, but basically the Bible is like you're supposed to take account, like you're going to give an account for everything that you do, right? So it's like, well, if that's the case, and if we apply that principle backwards, we should be giving an account. We should be taking account of ourselves.
Well, to get to take an account, you have to then know what you're doing,
take an inventory.
And I think we're going to arrive in heaven.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be like kind of put together for us. And it's like all he's going to do is replay back and say, what did you do for the gospel? And,
Right.
That's the theological debate, because your sins are washed away.
Sure.
Every great
slate's clean.
Every great youth pastor scared his children into saying, we're going to get to heaven and God's going to watch every sinful thought you did. And it's like, maybe not so.
I don't think well. Yeah.
But it's more or less like, what did you do with your time?
Sure.
How am I going to weigh it?
Right.
And it's entrepreneur minded, young family.
Yeah.
There's very little time.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is learning windows. So like I know like right now with my kids their age, like I have a window to go really hard and work really hard and do like when I'm doing traveling and stuff. But man, once my kids get, 3.5, 4, like that's when I need to be here like a lot more than I'm going now. Cause like right now I have this real special window that I can go and do and make money with what I'm doing. But eventually I'm gonna have to go, no, like I'm gonna have
here's
to
the hard part. It may not be where you get the window.
Yeah.
So now you have to find those things that like you do together that are special for them.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
we got done with the whole Easter craze. My son's loving puzzles.
Yeah.
And I just wanted like to zone out. And I'm like, no, let's pull out the puzzles.
Yeah.
Show dad. And then, you're fighting yourself to not correct him. Like, no, it's this. Show me how to do it.
Yeah.
You're like but he's like, this was the best thing ever. So it's like, you just got to reallocate time constantly.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's probably hard as for most people.
Yeah.
Because it requires change. You're getting older, kids are getting older.
Yep.
Jobs, environment's changing. But we're looking at our downtown. It hasn't changed in 70 years.
My gosh, I know.
And they're perfectly fine with it just getting more ran down.
Yeah.
More.
I mean, every day that goes by, there's more water damage and something that we want to buy. Like,
or they're just like, now there's 90 buildings and we're only occupying 10 out of the 90.
Yeah.
And it's like,
crazy.
They just decided it's okay. And I wonder in our own lives, where have we just justified it's okay?
Yeah.
Like for me, I've definitely justified working out.
Yeah.
Like it's not the biggest priority. Let me just make sure my count on my phone says I've walked 5,000 steps.
In. Yeah.
I'm moving. I'm active.
Yeah.
That's the worst, it's the simplest, best scenario. So it's like finding those things where can I make time
Sure.
a principle? Can I value what I'm doing? And there are conveniences. I think you were saying it earlier, is like people value currency with time.
Yeah.
I used to think it was a joke when people would like get your groceries.
Oh,
now I think it's a blessing.
It's incredible.
They're offering a service.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you less than weak.
Yeah.
And I just got to show up. It gets thrown in my car.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Or we just pay the extra $4 and it's delivered to our house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Listen, I haven't been to the grocery store to get actual groceries probably like 3 years.
Right.
My wife said, "Hey, there's this membership where they'll drop it off the house for an extra $12 a month." Yes, ma'am.
Right.
100%.
Right.
Because that $12, I mean, I'm going to spend more in gas going back and forth in the month than $12.
Right.
So it's like, okay, yeah, go ahead for sure. Because we're already doing the pickup thing. So it's like, man, that makes so much sense to just, when I'm home, she orders the groceries, it comes in, I bring it all in. It's easy peasy. Like we skip 2 steps, 3 steps, driving there, doing it, driving back. Like, yeah, for sure. It's totally worth it.
And I think we're a convenient society.
100%.
And we somehow figured out how to become unconveniently busy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like, oh, I'm just going to sit here on the couch. Someone's going to deliver me food with one of those services.
Yep.
And it's like, use them, but you should now have an open time to do something.
And that's a good point.
More with our abilities instead of just becoming, I don't use the word lazy, but it's like, just people should serve me.
Yeah. And I think the other thing too is like with that is like, okay, you can now streamline things. You can streamline with convenience. Mm-hmm. So now like when you're streamlining, what are you adding?
Right.
I think a lot of times we're like, oh, we'll streamline. And then we're not adding anything. Mm-hmm. And one thing we do here is we add stuff constantly.
Right.
And we're just like, and sometimes we don't even streamline stuff. So sometimes we just talk about streamlining stuff and then we add stuff. And we're like, wait, we haven't streamlined it yet. And it's like, wow, we're going to. And it's like, I think, but because we're just so eager to do things.
Right.
And so I think that's the thing that's kind of the challenge today is like, hey, like what can you do to use to get convenience? What can you use to streamline? But then what can you add to your plate? What can you take away and maybe it's not do it, but what can you get to do somewhere else? Like something else, someone else, a service that can do something for you that then you can be freed up and you can do something. Whether it's spend more time with your family, spend more time doing, working on your side hobby. Because I think a lot of times too, like we'll get so caught up in what we're doing, we'll never work on ourselves. Like, and it's like, and that, just doing something you enjoy is something that our culture has so like devoided because we're just like this hustle culture.
Well,
right?
it's either nothing, or it's everything.
100%.
It's the people that are like prepping for their. So I have a neighbor. They love camping, I guess.
Yeah.
They spend 2 weeks prior pulling the tents out, rolling them, counting out, and everything. And I'm like,
there you go.
If I could do that, like
I don't know if I could either.
I'm just trying to make sure that my grass doesn't overgrow and you're mad at me and I got to remember to call the guy that's cutting our lawn. But like some people, they do nothing or it's always an extreme. It's never the middle ground. And I think my heart's desire is that people value the time God's given them.
Right.
We've had some close friends and family in a tragic accident and it was like so close for them to be life or death and to think that they may not be here. And then a family member would be missing out of the family. And it's like, we never value it until we're on the hinge or someone goes through this life scare, because we've all known somebody who gets those weird autoimmune diseases. Yeah. And then they're like, if I just would have realized I shouldn't be just eating this certain thing or been more cautious to what my body was telling me. And I think if we look at our lives early on, we're not having regrets.
Right.
Because all my grandparents are in their like late 80s.
Yeah.
Like, they're hovering. So yes, please Jesus, keep them alive. But realistically, there's not that many 110-year-old grandma and grandpas running around.
Yeah.
So exactly. Like you can't pray 20 more years into their life.
Sure.
And I'm looking, I'm like, did I spend the time with them? Because now it's like we're just getting to say the highs and do they remember us?
Yep.
And then now I'm looking at my children and, so I'm just looking at all these different things. I guess I'm at that pivot of life where I'm like, I better start valuing this time.
Yep.
Because it is fading.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think that is the one other side to look at is, sometimes there are things that, time starts to fizzle out on. And did you see it before it fizzled out?
Right.
Because I think a lot of times we take things for granted. And that's one thing, with like, even with my parents, like I realized like I took a lot of time for granted. Like, thankfully, like they're back around. But like when I was living in Ormond, like I took for granted that they were 15 minutes away. Now, granted, I was working a job that, to be honest, wasn't a great job for time management because I was not in control of my time.
Right.
Jesus apparently was. And the thing is so like I allowed that to trump me being with my family. And so then I move away, and then we're even further away, and then Jesus is still in charge of my time. And it's like, and then we move away to a whole different state. And now it's like, now Jesus is in control of my time. Now I'm finally back in control, and now they're not here. And it's like, but now they're coming out. So God redeems things. I think that's the other thing. God can redeem things. I think the biggest problem, and we talked about it before, but like, are you positioning yourself for God to redeem things?
Right.
Because I think a lot of times we're doing the same thing. We're doing the same routine, and we're like, God, redeem it.
Right.
And it's like, God's
fix
like,
it.
move.
God, do this
like,
for me.
Yeah, just move. Realign yourself. Like, if you don't like what you're doing, pivot.
Right.
Like, if you don't like how things are going, pivot.
Right.
Like, and I think that's the thing that I think a lot of times, especially as Americans, we're just like, oh, things are just going to come to us.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times it's like, okay, yeah, you're right. We have it good here. Things come through normally, like, oh, yeah, we're blessed that we're living in a society where like we can Amazon Prime something that we forgot 2 days ago and it'll be here tomorrow.
But convenience works.
Yeah.
But it's also, we look and someone did build something, someone did do something.
Right.
And then we go, I wish I had that.
Right.
But we don't realize there was 2 years, 3 years in the making, but they had to spend the time diligently doing it. So it's,
for sure,
it's understanding we all have the same amount of time.
Yeah.
How do you want to spend it?
Yeah.
And some people just, I hate to use the word, aimlessly walk through life.
That's true though.
Others are hustling it.
Yeah.
And they do have something to show for it, but they've also maybe not spent the time redeeming their soul, their family. You hate this
so much into
we always kind of look at those Hall of Fame speeches going,
oh man,
forgive me guys. I'm so thankful my family was there for me.
Yeah.
And then, we're watching something play out on wrestling and there's this father and son.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like, you weren't there for me.
Yeah.
And it's always that, like, people are always quick to tell you what you didn't do.
Yeah.
And so I guess I would say, find what you can do.
Yep.
You're not going to be perfect. No one is, but try to assess, what am I spending my time in?
Yeah.
Is there value there? Like, I look at people gardening and I'm like, God bless you. I'll just go buy the carrot at the store. I know it doesn't have the same nutritional value, but I don't think I can give 8 hours to that carrot.
But sometimes that is self-care for that person.
And I get that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that those things are
for me, it's
wrong.
For me, it's worthless. 100%.
It's like it's like changing your oil.
100%. Yeah.
Yes, we could get you the jack pan.
Yeah.
You could Google it.
Yeah.
Or you could just pay $39.99.
Because to be completely honest with you, a carrot from here, a carrot from here, I couldn't care less. But hey, you know what? Some people enjoy it.
Right.
It's like people that grow flowers. They just grow flowers, not to sell, but just grow flowers.
Right.
You can buy those.
Right,
right.
I
don't understand, but hey, you know what? To each their own.
And it comes down to everything. People who play video games, they'll knock it.
Yeah.
But I just think we got to guard our hearts
Yep.
because everything is accessible.
For sure.
And so the enemy loves to pull you in and say, well, that's your hobby.
Right.
And so you find the people that have 20 games on their phone.
Yeah.
And they're constantly playing games, waiting in line. There's just no thought into like, what am I doing tomorrow? Where's my life going? Or you have those, I always feel bad for the students that are halfway through college.
Yeah.
Like they're not, they're in it too long to quit.
Yeah.
And like, they're like, but I got a long journey. You're like, God be with you.
Yep.
So it's time. We all get it.
Yep.
How are we going to spend it?
Yep.
We don't want this show to go long.
No.
We don't waste their time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So for that,
yeah,
we will see you guys next week.
Yes, sir.